Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show, and welcome to another playoff game recap of the divisional round. This time, it's Game 3, Patriots versus the Houston Texans to start off the Sunday slate of games. And I must say, what a game it was. Very snowy and very unideal conditions. But before I move on too much more in the intro, let's get into recapping this divisional game between the Patriots and the Houston Texans. If you like this video, please consider giving a like. It lets me know if I'm doing a good job with these videos or not. And if you'd like to, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more future playoff content, but also any Seahawks content. That would be greatly appreciated. As we get to the game summary, the Patriots win at home 28 to the Texans 16. Let's start off with the Patriots stats first. They had a total of 248 total yards, 143 yards passing, 105 yards rushing. They averaged 3.9 yards per play, 13 first downs. They went 3 for 14 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down, had 64 total plays, 5 sacks allowed, 8 punts, 3 penalties for 48 yards given up, 2 fumbles lost, 1 interception thrown by Drake May. Patriots ended off the day with 32 minutes and 9 seconds of possession time. For the Houston Texans, they ended off the day with 241 total yards, 193 yards passing, 48 yards rushing, 3.3 yards per play, 16 first downs. They went 7 for 17 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down, had 72 total plays, 3 sacks allowed, 5 punts, 4 penalties for 32 yards given up, 1 fumble lost, and 4 interceptions thrown by CJ Stroud. That made the difference in this game. We'll talk about that. And the Houston Texans ended off the day with 27 minutes and 51 seconds of possession time. As we get to Ryan's focus players, let's talk about Drake May. 16 for 27, 179 yards passing, the 3 touchdowns, the 1 interception, and 2 fumbles in this game. Drake May coming into this game, he was the lesser of two evils. I think both these quarterbacks had not so great games in the snowy conditions at Foxborough. And, in these snowy conditions, it's a playoff game in January. And I must say, like, Drake May obviously made some plays. That's why they won in this game. I think he did have a better day than CJ Stroud, but I think CJ Stroud just couldn't get anything going in Foxborough yesterday. And here's the thing, I think the touchdowns for Drake May were amazing. The Romeo Douglas touchdown was a thing of beauty. That on fourth down, I believe it was 26 yards that touchdown was scored. It was a really good route by Demario Douglas and an even better throw from Drake May. The Stephon Diggs touchdown, same thing. It's one of those throws where you're expecting a second year quarterback to make those types of throws into the end zone, and he made those throws. And then the Kayshon Boutte touchdown in the fourth quarter to basically seal this game away and get 28 points on the board. That was another really good touchdown. Kayshon Boutte is such a fast wide receiver, and that was a good route from him. But the interception was at the end of the second half, and it was basically no time on the clock, zeros on the clock, and it was basically a Hail Mary. So I don't put that interception on Drake May. It didn't really impact the game, but the 2 fumbles from Drake May did impact the game. One was beaten out of him by a run call, a QB sneak that they were doing on, I believe it was a 3rd-and-1 play in the first half, and I believe it was in the first quarter. Number 72 for the Texans, he batted that ball out, popped it out, and they got the turnover off of it. But also, Danielle Hunter, man, he was another guy that this fumble was picked up by Will Campbell, but he was another guy that got through the offensive line and stripped Drake May. And the one other fumble that Drake May lost was to Will Anderson. Same exact kind of deal. The offensive line for the Patriots just couldn't hold up against this Texans pass rush a lot of the time, and the fumbles are becoming apparent for Drake May. He had two fumbles against the Chargers the week prior in the wild card round, and now two fumbles here that were lost from him. So he just needs to clean up his kind of fumbling issues. I think he's at 13 in the regular season and postseason combined, which is the most in the NFL for fumbles. But I think Drake May, he did enough to win this game. It just wasn't very pretty. Let's get to running back Ramondre Stevenson, 16 carries, 70 yards, average 4.4 yards per carry, zero touchdowns. Again, the conditions in this game, and I'm going to come back to those because it's wet out there. It was basically not exactly full snow until the second half. It was more of a light drizzle, kind of like one of those light snows where it just makes everything wet and damp and cold. And Ramondre Stevenson somehow still figured out a way to get 70 yards on 16 carries. It's not the best game from him, but he is still a big factor for the Patriots in this run game. And he is part of the reason why they won because he sustained some drives here against a Houston's team that is very good against the run. Let's get to wide receiver. Instead of talking about Kayshon Boutte, let's talk about Stephon Diggs. 4 receptions, 40 yards, 10 yards per reception, the one touchdown. And the reason why I'm talking about Stephon Diggs is he did not get the most yardage. That was goes to Kayshon Boutte with 75 yards in this game. But one thing about Stephon Diggs that I really want to highlight here is that not only was his touchdown brilliant because it was the same kind of touchdown that Demario Douglas kind of ran. It was an end zone kind of, you know, we've got to secure the catch type of thing. You're going to go up against man coverage. And Stephon Diggs, man, he's had a year. He was a former Viking. He went to the Bills, had a great career there, went to the Patriots, or went to the Houston Texans, rather, had a knee injury and then has gone to the Patriots and really revived his career in a sense because he's gotten 1,000 yards this season and he did really well here. I think he is still a good wide receiver at 32. He's in a different skill set now. Instead of having the explosive plays that you expect from a guy like Stephon Diggs against a Houston Texans team that doesn't give up many explosive plays, it's on Stephon Diggs to just make sure he's got sure hands and make sure that he catches most of the balls that are thrown to him in this game. And he was a really reliable target for Drake May. And that's why he not only got the touchdown, but also got the 4 receptions for 40 yards. It's not a flashy game from Stephon Diggs, but he is just a reliable target in this system of wide receivers for the Patriots. So good game from Stephon Diggs. Let's get to the Patriots D line and defense. Let's get to Christian Barrymore. 1 solo tackle, 1 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles. But Christian Barrymore and this defensive front, his stats might not look impressive, but for a defensive tackle, he was making sure that Woody Marks couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't get anything going on the ground for the Texans. And that led to a bunch of different things where CJ Stroud was having to throw it all the time because he couldn't establish a run game. And Christian Barrymore is part of the reason why. Christian Barrymore stuffs Woody Marks on a couple plays there. He's helping out. He's eating up blocks and making sure that other people on his team, like the linebackers, can help out in the run game. Cornerback DB Christian Gonzalez, the All-Pro, 6 solo tackles, 3 assisted, 0 sacks, forced fumble on, I believe this was on Woody Marks as well. And, one of the things about Christian Gonzalez is an All-Pro for a reason. He is a very, very covered corner. And along with this secondary of Marcus Jones, he's a very good young player who can make tackles in the run game. He can also make sure that his team has an advantage to win. It was all about defense in this one and how much you could possess the ball and where you could get it for your offense. And Christian Gonzalez on that strip from Woody Marks, that's a hard guy to bring down, Woody Marks. So it's a very good game from the corner, Christian Gonzalez. They really like him there in Foxborough. So good game from him. Let's get to linebacker. Pelavon Chason, one solo tackle, two assisted, one sack, no interceptions. But I'm highlighting Caravon Chase on here because a lot of his stats will not show up on the stat sheet on the game. You have to really watch him play because Caravon Chason, he was a former Jaguar, former Raider, finds a home in the Patriots team at linebacker, and he was making CJ Stroud and the offensive line for the Texans. It was a nightmare because we're looking at how much pressure Calvin Chason applied with Christian Ellis in that linebacker core. I think that was one of the best games I've seen Calvin Chason play in his career. The amount of pressure he was putting on. He even made sure that one of CJ Stroud's interceptions was a pick six for Marcus Jones because of the pressure applied by Calvin Chason in the first half. It was something out of a movie. I think Calvin Chason is a hell of a player at the edge position for this linebacker group. So good game from him. Let's talk about the Texans. Let's talk about QB CJ Stroud. 20 for 47, 212 yards passing, the one touchdown to Christian Kirk in the first half, but the four interceptions in the first half. It was not a good game from CJ Stroud. I'm gonna pick on him a little bit because in my predictions, my divisional predictions, I picked the Patriots to win this game, and I said the defense for the Texans is going to be a hard team to deal with. But the offense really needs to secure the ball, make sure they're not dropping the ball, make sure they're not getting into trouble with turnovers. And lo and behold, CJ Stroud throws four picks in the first half. One of them a pick six to Marcus Jones, who returns it for 25 yards. Now, that pick, you can say, oh, it's not his fault. The offensive line let him down. But you've just got to realize that in snowy conditions, you're not going to be able to grip the ball as much. You're not going to be able to do some of the things that you've been doing all year long. And against a Patriots front that's hungry and ready to go into an AFC championship game, you just can't have that many mistakes. The two picks from Carlton Davis in this one, number 7 on the Patriots. Those throws were they just completely got away from CJ Stroud. And for a guy that he's not a bad quarterback, his decision making has just been baffling the last two playoff games, and they got out of there with a win against the Pittsburgh last week, despite the turnovers from CJ Stroud. But he did some really good things in this game. I think CJ Stroud, some of his passes that weren't intercepted were actually pretty on target. Some of his wide receivers actually dropped passes. I'm looking at Christian Kirk. I'm looking at guys like Jalen Higgins, who was his top wide receiver at that time. But, you know, um, I really think CJ Stroud, man, he needs more ball security. Running back Woody Marks, 14 carries, 17 yards, average 1.2 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns, one forced fumble, strip fumble from the Christian Gonzalez. Man, the Texans offense just was not non-existent in this one. Couldn't get the run game going, even with Nick Chubb there. Couldn't get the run game going from Woody Marks, and Woody Marks is not a bad running back. It's just this Patriots D line feasted. Guys like Kate Ellis feasted, and it's just it's one of those things where what a difference a week makes. 100 yards for Woody Marks in the game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He's got 17 yards on 14 carries. Not a great game from Woody Marks. Hopefully he'll bounce back next year because I think he really did have a good playoffs, and I do like this guy. He's put me on notice, and we'll see what he does next year. Wide receiver Jalen Higgins, 6 receptions, 59 yards, averaged 9.8 yards per reception, 0 touchdowns. The second round pick out of Ohio State this year for the Houston Texans. He was the only guy that I could say was open for CJ Stroud the majority of the game. Him and Hutchinson, Xavier Hutchinson for the Texans were the only wide receivers that I could say were even open for CJ Stroud. Jalen Higgins actually did very well. I think the passes that he did catch, now he had, I think he had 13 targets in this game, and he did drop a few, but he's the only guy that could get open for CJ Stroud, and that's why he's got a lot of his yardage here um, for CJ Stroud. It was the number one target. No Nico Collins. Bolton Schultz actually went out of the game with a thigh injury, and relying on a second round pick wide receiver, rookie wide receiver. I think Jalen Higgins is actually a pretty darn a good wide receiver for the Texans, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for the 23-year-old. So good game from Jalen Higgins just against a monster secondary. Let's get to the Texans defense. Another monster performance from D lineman Will Anderson Jr. Have a day, man. 3 solo tackles, 0 assisted, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. One of them was actually putting his team in a position to score points, which was good. The other one was obviously picked up by Will Campbell, but here is a guy in Will Anderson who kept the Texans in the game. This whole defense, the Texans in the game. It was only 28-16. And man, I'm just gonna say, like, this is not on the Texans defense. This is more their offense just couldn't get going. And the Texans defense obviously buckled a little bit with some of the touchdowns that they gave up. Of course, the Kayshon Boutte touchdown, where he's working on Derek Stingley. That is a miraculous catch for 32 yards at basically the fourth quarter at 11 minutes. And it's something where you look at it and go, yeah, we gave up one there because we were in terrible field position for the majority of this game, but Will Anderson and the rest of this D line stepped up, sacking Drake May 3 times. Again, the Patriots O line is not that great, and Will Anderson was just feasting on um, Campbell, the rookie left tackle. So great game from Will Anderson despite the loss. Let's get to DB Jalen Petrie again in the nickel. He's a safety, but he plays in the nickel. 4 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. At the beginning of the game, Ramondre Stevenson rips off a 29-yard gain, but past that, it was Jalen Petrie making those tackles. He is explosive off the ball. His tackling prowess for this Texans defense was insane today. And it's just one of those things where a good defensive performance is kind of squandered because it's not the top story on this divisional round game. But great game from Jalen Petrie. I think he had a good game. Backer and Henry To'o, 4 solo tackles, 4 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. To'o, man, he's another guy in this linebacker core alongside of Aziz Al-Shair, is a guy number 39 that I'm going to watch for when things happen for the Texans because this guy's all over the field. He is exactly like Shair in the sense that he's just, this whole team is built on, if I'm going to hit you in zone coverage, I'm going to make sure you feel it so that you caution and hesitate when you go over the middle. He had a really good game in terms of hitting. His coverage skills need a little bit of work. He was on Demario Douglas a lot of the time, and Demario kind of got the best of him on certain routes and that sort of thing. But I think Henry Toho really put in some highlight reel tackles and tried his best on the field. Final thoughts on the game. What a very snowy day and tough conditions for this AFC divisional matchup. Lots of turnovers in this one. For the Patriots, your defense was electric, picking off CJ Stroud 4 times in the first half to help lead the Patriots to victory here. A very perplexing day for your offense. I mean, Drake May did have the 3 touchdowns. However, he's very lucky that the defense in this game was very good for the Patriots side. And I do mean that. Drake May has a fumbling problem. For all his great offensive pretty throws that he throws during a game, he obviously does have a fumbling problem, and that can be due to the offensive line not holding up there under the bargain, letting him get pressure. And for a second year quarterback like Drake May, I think Mike Vrabel will get that all sorted out. I think Josh McDaniels will get that sorted out, the OC for the Patriots. I think you've got to learn when to step up in the pocket or try to run away or try to throw it away instead of trying to take those fumbles, and learn how to hold on to the ball a little bit more. Again, ball security in the playoffs is going to be the name of the game when you go up against the Broncos next week in the divisional, because that defense is just as tough as the Texans, I think. For the Texans, it's a day to forget on offense for you guys. 4 picks and 2 strip fumbles. So many turnovers on offense. There were 8 turnovers in this game total. Defense tried to keep you guys in it, and they did their best. I don't blame this on the defense one bit. Yes, they gave up 21 points, but one of those was a pick six to make it 28 points. And they kept you in the game the whole entire time. For D'Amico Ryans, he's made it 3 times in his first 3 years with this Texans team. He's built an all-pro kind of caliber defense with guys like Lassiter and Derek Stingley and Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. I think you guys need to kind of shore up that offensive input, and we'll see what happens for you guys next year. Anyways, that is it for this game recap of divisional game 3. Patriots versus the Houston Texans. The Patriots move on to face the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game for Super Bowl 60. I will see you guys in the next video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How did you feel about this game? Take care of yourselves.